It's the track.
Okay, recording the podcast Saturday, June the 27th, a day later in Auckland, New Zealand. The triumphant of sorts return for Shane, the ratings machine, Rohde, back to save the podcast. But Shano, you're not feeling the best, mate. What's happening,
mate? I don't want to start talking in Stu Kerr-isms, but it's just been a effing comedy of errors this morning. It's like an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
You're back from suspension, mate. You're like...
I'm back from suspension.
John Hopperati was out. Well, you were in Australia for a couple of weeks enjoying the high life, so only natural that potentially you're a little bit under the weather today. So Shano, he said before the pod, you might not have a lot of time, so let's just go hard. We'll get straight into it. There's quite a lot going on in the world of track and field, Deo. I know you've been watching the pod, obviously, the last couple of episodes.
Well, I have, mate. You look like you're saying that tongue in cheek. It's been nice having content produced for me. It's been great.
Yeah, well, I've missed you, though, honestly. I say this all the time. And I know that you know this because you've got your own legal podcast. Doing it yourself is bloody hard. So, you know, thanks to Kerr, actually, ironically, for joining the first week, and then, of course, Justin last week. But we'll get straight into it. Hey, Deo, a lot going on the last couple of weeks. As you know, NCAA's, Femke running the 800, Keely in the 400. We got more Josh Kerr, Stu Kerr stuff. Anything you want to touch on from the last couple of weeks, mate?
Oh, I'm pretty shocked. So I can't, other than the Sam Ruthe news, which I saw, which people obviously talking about in our network, I remember watching Femke's race, but I haven't really kept up as much as normal, Jason. I don't normally have my
That's all right.
Normal level of devotion.
That's okay. So we'll just jet right through that. Hey, one thing I did notice coming out of the Portland Track Festival, unfortunately, I wasn't in Portland last week. James Harding, Shano.
Oh, I saw that.
What an awesome performance from James Harding. And it's, you know, we've now got in Preston and James, the two Jameses, two young guys who were great, almost like prodigies at the junior level, who've really gone through and are delivering on the senior level. So yeah, this is awesome. One thing I did want to get your thoughts on here, or run by you. So Commonwealth Games team was announced. I think that's third week of July, obviously in Glasgow this year. Preston announced in the 800, but no James Harding. He's not on the team. I wouldn't say that this goes straight into a fire up corner, but that's a bit of a bummer, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Preston this season, and James running fantastically. He's got a season best, 145.07. He's just run 151 in Europe, first race. I know he was a little bit sick getting off the plane, and 147.86. But these are the performances of Harding this year. He's just run 144.94 in Portland, so a little bit quicker. 145.66 at the Oregon Twilight Classic, 148.33 indoors, and also 146.53. I just don't understand how this guy's not on the team.
You know, I'm in a kind of irreverent mood because I've been a bit crook, Jason, as you know, and just hearing that, I mean, it's like the sort of much talked about Australian selection dramas. They should just ban humans from deciding. World Athletics should just say, this is how you're picking teams, because you've got a guy like you and I were like, Jason, you were a lot better than me, but I was a low 150s runner. And you imagine running 144.9 and not going to the, no disrespect, but the Commonwealth Games, which is a very lukewarm, you know, unwatched event these days. I mean,
Yes.
What signal does it send to a guy like that trying to make his way in the world in a really difficult, non-money sport that no matter what you do, really, some guy at an office is going to go, no, I don't think that's a high enough level to compete for a top whatever finish some boffin wrote in a selection policy.
Yeah.
It's not, it's maniacal.
Yes. Yeah, and especially as we know, like Commonwealth Games was always a great feeder competition through to, you got that experience of running rounds, being in a fairly big stadium, going through the call room and all that kind of stuff. And it really was a great, or it is a great championships to just prepare yourself for what you might encounter at a world and Olympic level. And just yet again, I don't know if this is a timing issue. Did he run the 144 too late? But at the end of the day, sometimes you've just got to do the right thing. Cannot believe that this guy, who's running as well as he is, at his age, with his level of talent, he's shown talent through the years growing up, is just not going to be there. Like I agree with you. I'm not super fired up, as Kerr would say, but yeah, not great. All right, moving on. Shano, I know you said you haven't been following a lot of the action as closely lately, but obviously you've seen the performances of Audrey Vero and, of course, Femke Bol in the 800. Paris Diamond League is on tomorrow, and the news came out this morning while you were still getting your beauty sleep. It is now an official world record attempt by Audrey Vero in the 800 meters. Femke's also in the race. I don't know if she's going to factor in too much. My guess would be is that she's probably going to go with the pace on this one. But Shano, this is pretty exciting. And there are a few other events that were on there. I know that there was a 1500 meters with Niels Laros and Adesine Habs, of course, around 3:27 there last year. And I see that Laros has now switched to the 800. But I think really the story now is just this 800. When I said that, I don't know if you read that news or not. Like I said, I think you're asleep. What was the first thing that came to your mind? Like, is this a reality? What chance in a percentage do you give Audrey Vero here of going for that or getting that world record? And I'll tell you that the pace that they've asked for, 55.5 at 400.
I don't know. I think Audrey Vero can break that record, but I don't know if she'll do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, to run 1:53.9 was already such a phenomenal breakthrough and so much higher level than Audrey Vero's been able to compete at before. So us as fans can get very carried away by going, well, she's under 154 now, why not 153.2? But this is a 40-something year old record, 50-year-old record, and by a knowingly doped athlete. On the women's side, drugs make more difference than men's, given women their predominant disparity is based off lack of strength.
Yeah.
So to say she's going to run 1:53.1, it's just I don't know. Yeah. I don't think so. But hey, if she tries and runs 1:53.6,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I was thinking about this before coming on the pod. Things that are running in her favor. I think that this will be her kind of third race in this little block of excellence. She came through, ran 1:53.98 in Stockholm. She beat Keeley out of nowhere. Very good kind of backup performance, running 1:54.3 in the race against Femke in Ostrava. And so typically these races, when we see from these guys, they come sort of on that third race. So she had a good entry under 154, backed it up with a solid low 154. So you would think that things align for her on that level. The other reason, but on the flip side, the reason why it might be difficult is, unlike Stockholm, where there was basically no focus on her because everyone was looking at Keeley, right? And on top of that, Shane, and we talked about this before on the pod, when there's expectation of running like a world record or a big time, it's almost too much for the field, and kind of weird things happen. The pressure of expectation. We saw this in Monaco last year, and that men's 800 that was supposed to be the big world record attempt. All the guys were there post Paris. It's Monaco. And then it kind of, it was a good race, 1:41.4, but it wasn't 1:40.9, the world record. And so I think it's really going to be a difference this time for Audrey when there's focus on the world record. They've come out publicly, and she's not going to have Keeley there to, for example, do what she did in that Stockholm race, which was take the reins of the race over with 300 to go and pull her all the way through. So she's going to be alone in that last 300. It's so much more difficult running from the front than maybe we give sort of that credit to. And yeah, I'm kind of with you. I would give her maybe a 30% chance, 40% chance. Does that sound too high? Maybe
That's pretty. It's pretty high.
it's
Yeah.
overly bullish. Okay, we can bring it down 20% maybe. Yeah. But she's definitely there and thereabouts. She's the best candidate that we've seen, since Afang Mu, and she's actually done it.
She's the only candidate. I mean, watching that footage, it's like drone footage from her overtaking Kelly Hodgkinson, the last 100. They are. I never thought I'd say this, but they are a class of. Vero's a class apart in terms of raw talent to Keely. Although I think, like, I agree with you, Jason. I think Keely's camp have really stuffed up. Because she looked terrible in that. It's an incredible concept to say you could run 154.3 a PB and look terrible, but she was really like you said, bottom heavy and shuffly, and the contrast between Vera, who kind of just ran away from her, loped away from her like a kid at the bloody egg and spoon race when you're at primary school. She sort of looked like she effortlessly just took off, and Kelly and I think because Kelly's been doing all that 400 training. This is just my opinion. It looked because you and I ran this event, so she looked like she was trying to dig into what she's been learning, possibly in a change of mentality to that of a sprinter, and so she was trying to like dig into this, and it looked graceless, and it looked effortful. And I went back and watched some Keely races from say 21, 22, and she looks like a completely different runner. And Audrey Vero is now a longer limbed, just as smooth, younger version of Keely. It's a bit like when it's a bit like Jason. It's a bit like when Joachim Cruz took the mantle over from Coe, and the way that Vero ran away from Keely was a little bit like Cruz running away from Coe in LA.
Yeah,
it's just
true.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great comparison. That's what you come to the Track Stitch podcast for. Comparisons like that you won't find anywhere else in the world of track and field podcasting. But yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying, Shane. I think that's a great insight from what happened in Stockholm. I think that maybe that was, I don't know if we coined the phrase torching, right? The famous torching from the early days of the podcast when El Garouche torched Morcelli, and basically the whole impetus of the event shifted to El Garouche from Nerdy. I don't know if that's 100% the moment in Stockholm where Audrey Vero assumed the torch from Keely, but it kind of seemed like it. And anyway.
But I also think all this fanfare around Keely with the sub 50 and the MI5 Track Club or whatever acronym M11. They call. I know I'm being facetious, and the sort of circus that they've created for themselves around it. It's just like it seems to be in this day and age that it's kind of a rite of passage that when you become, for example, an Olympic champion or achieve the top honor in your thing, that you become then someone that has to necessarily live up to a sort of choreographed, performative persona that, really speaking, has no real no anchoring in any kind of reality, and I don't think it's good for people. And I think Vero, like you said, Jason, it'll be interesting now to see how she responds, given she was able to not have all that fanfare around her and just get on with the mechanics of running. So, it's tough. Kelly's still a young woman, so it's a tough world we live in where everyone seems to feel this pressure. Oh, now that I'm X, I have to perform like Y. I have to look like this. I have to say these things, and it's like another whole battle that you have to overcome to succeed.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, back to Vero in this attempt. You've talked me down. I'm going to give her a 20% chance now. And I will say this, Shano, in the event that she does break the world record tomorrow morning, I am going to appease all the fans out there, including one Liam Shabo Scopes, and it will definitely be worthy of an emergency podcast. I might even just call you up. I know you'll be in the office suited up, maybe in the middle of some deep conveyancing work.
I don't wear suits, and I don't do conveyancing, mate. Wash that. Get some soap and wash that bloody grill of yours out.
Actually, I kind of like this version of you, Shado. You're sick, but you've got quite a lot of fire this morning.
So I've taken on a kind of, getting, my business partner forgetting to put my swipe card on his bloody the tire of his old Mercedes, and then getting locked out of the office and being crooked. I've got a very little bandwidth right now for any kind of nonsense. I'm just cutting thrust this morning, Jason.
I love it. Well, hey, Shano, I did say I've got a surprise for you on the pod today, and I think it's about time for it. You know, last week, as you know, when Justin was on the podcast, we were talking about the performance of Sanu Jalou at the NCAA championships in the 800. She went through the first lap 55:03, and I wondered, is that the fastest time that I have ever seen a woman go through a 400 meters of an 800 and then still hold on without completely capitulating? And Justin said to me, he's like, no, that's not the case. There's been someone faster. And I wasn't sure if I believed him. Well, hold on a second. You're shaking your head. Did you know this?
I don't know it, but I feel like Gilemo or some crazy woman back in the day, or perhaps even Chip Churchill or someone went through in like 54.9 or something.
So I can tell you that is not correct, because I went back and I had a look at those performances. However, I can tell you that Justin Rinaldi was in fact correct. And on top of that, I was able to source the footage that we are going to watch right now. And this is awesome footage. So just a little bit of context, and then I'll talk about some of the crazy stats coming out of these. This is from 1976, the Montreal Olympics. So Shano, back by popular demand, we haven't actually had a lot of footage put on the Track Stitch podcast for a while. I'm going to bring up some now, and hopefully we're not going to get copyright and get a copyright strike coming out of the. I'm not sure if the Russian National Television Federation archives will ping us on this one, but let's see if I can make this happen. Are you ready for this? This is from 1976, and thanks to the tech team for putting this together. We'll take a look at it. These are some of the women's 800 meter races. It is a women's semi-final, and then we've got the final here. Shano, without further ado, take a look at these races, because this is some absolutely crazy stuff. I'd love to get your commentary through this too.
Демократическая республика, обладательница тоже выдающегося результата в беге на 800 метров, 1 минута 57,1 секунды.
Interesting music.
Yeah, they were known for their saxophone, the Russians. All right, Shadow, here we go. Clock is now up on the screen. Now, let's have a look at some of the checkpoint times here. So this is obviously the old way of running, where they stayed in their lanes all the way through to 300 meters, but you're going to see the 300 meter split in just a moment. So here it is right here, 40 on the clock. Wait till you see this interim split time.
Oh my God.
We keep watching. 54:44. So coming through 600 meters. 1:23.60 I got on the pause through 600 meters. I'll explain the significance of that at the end of the race. But surely at this point you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? 1:52.
Oh my God.
All right, so Shado, that was the semi-final there from Montreal, 1976.
Who was that athlete?
Anita Weiss from Germany.
Yeah, I heard of it.
All right, Shado, and here we go. Here's another treat for you.
Cousin Kenya.
Well, in the commentary, apparently the pronunciation is Kazankina. Tatiana Kazankina. How good is this old school footage? Wasn't that incredible though? 54:44. Tell you what, man, these ladies were not messing around back in 1976. So Shayna, while we're going through the first 400 of this one, just a little bit of background of that first semi-final. 54:44 through 400, 123.60 at 600 meters. Right, they only started taking the world record. Hold on as the girls go through here. 55:05. Shano, they only started recording the world record for the women's 600 in 1978. And the first world record was set at 125.56. And by the year 2000, only one woman had beaten it. And that was Anna Fidelia Kiro at 122.63. So that is how fast that first semi-final was, 123.6. Absolutely crazy. So 200 to go in the Olympic final. Kazankina at the back of the field, at the back of this pack at the moment. Watch this finish.
Wow. Wow.
54.96.
She did that easily too.
Steaming. There she is.
Did Kazankina run 153 as well? I can't remember right now.
I think she might have done.
I think she was low 154.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
No, I don't think she wasn't one of, because there's only been two. It was Olizarenko was the world record holder before our good friend Yarmila. But Shano, so absolutely crazy. That first semi-final, as I mentioned, 123.6 through 600, which was the second fastest 600 meters ever run by a woman until the year 2000. 54.44 and then 62.09 for the second lap. That absolute madness. The fact that she was even able to stay on her feet say something. So the final 55.05, it was slightly slower than Sanu Jello, but we have in fact found an elite race where a woman actually went through faster than that. So it's pretty close. What a crazy performance that one. Listen to this though, Shano, and this is a good example of the era. We talk a lot about what may or may not have gone on back in the 70s with women 800 running. So in 1972 at the Olympics, 4 years earlier, the favourite for this race was a woman from Germany, West Germany, called Hildegard Falk. And she was the first woman. She was the first woman to break 2 minutes for 800 meters. In those heats at the Olympics, she ran 2:01 in the heats. She ran 2:01 in the semis, and then an Olympic record 158.55 in the final off 58.3. So you're probably listening to those numbers the same way I'm reading them and going, those are very, very standard kind of women's 800 meter running. So just imagine if you had been an athlete in that era, and I know that we're a number of athletes that actually crossed over from 1972 to 1976. There was an American athlete called Madeline Manning. Just imagine you've gone from running in that kind of race to all of a sudden 4 years later, there are women from the Eastern Bloc taking these races out in 54.4, 55 flat. That's a very, very, very big jump.
Yep.
So pretty crazy. How'd you enjoy that stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
All right, mate. You mentioned it earlier because we're nearing on the 30-minute mark. How you doing? You all right?
I'm all good. I've got another 10, 15 minutes in me, mate.
All right, okay. You mentioned early in the pod the sad and rather unfortunate news with Sam Ruthe, Sam Ruthless Ruth. He's out of World Juniors. He's also out of Commonwealth Games. I see they pulled him out of the World Road Running Championships. He was going to run the mile. Stress fracture, and I reached out to Coach Craig Kirkwood, also, friend of ours, asked him what was up. I said I was going to mention it on the pod. Did he have anything to add? Just he said, yeah, just another setback, and just leave it at that. Bit of a bummer for the young man, but I guess, Shane, if there's any silver lining here, it's that it's happening at a time in his life. As we know, when you're young, you tend to heal and bounce back from these things rather quickly. It is a shame he's going to miss World Juniors and Com Games. Again, mentioned what a great feeder competition. In fact, both of those competitions are to the senior ranks. But yeah, anything to add from your side there?
Yeah, I saw, I think you or Cal Jackson or someone sent me a screenshot of it. In fact, I think it was Kurt. Kurt sent it to me. And, it's not good.
No.
It's interesting. Like, I want to let's round it as a thread on the end. Like,
Mm.
the world seems to be full of, in a very polarized way, sort of two kinds of people. And one are the sort of sycophantic or mildly sycophantic people who will do anything to associate with this great kid and his family
Yeah.
and say that they're on the know, and he hasn't raced too much or trained too much, and it's no big deal. And then there's the people who are using aliases on the board to slander them all and call them this or that, or say they're idiots for dropping them out of school. And it's like, to me, neither of those are particularly helpful or factual. So what you've got here is a freakishly talented kid who's like another
Yeah.
John Walker, right? And he's definitely raced a lot compared to at least what we knew in our era, Jason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's come back from racing a lot in the track, and he's running triathlon things, and
Mm.
it feels like, to me, like there's a lot of intensity, whether that's not a lot of anaerobic work, but just in his life in general.
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, well, if you could handle it, well, this shows perhaps he's not, because
Mm.
but I just find it impossible to be critical, because I was thinking about it a lot, actually, and you were going to talk about it today. I haven't been at work because I've been sick to have more time to give this a normal. So it's just like, well, how do you make a 3:48 miler when you're that age? Well, to be a 3:48 miler at any time,
Yeah.
this is it takes an incredible amount of skill, effort, a bit of luck. So you've got this kid who's a freak of nature. And so he's got to have to prepare and have that right environment and all that to do that. And clearly he's got all of that going on, because you wouldn't have done what he's done. And forgetting like the 145 800,
Right.
it's not like he's just trained hard. He's obviously talented.
Yes.
So it's just like, to me, it's like you've got this freaky kid, and it's very easy for bloody armchair critics, who I count us in, 40-year-old, I could go, oh, he's trained too hard. Well, how do you think you run at that level? You have to. You don't sit around and go, oh, 3:48, 1:45. People go, oh, they've trained him too hard. I was like, I don't know anything about their specifics, so I can't say they have. And B, it's like, of course, you're always walking that tightrope in terms of the only thing I will say is that, and if this is criticism, then so be it. It's just like, latently the talent has to be there. So I would just hope that if there are learnings from this, it's that shit, man, this phone is sorry. I was just reaching my crescendo, Jason, the crux of my argument. I would just hope that wherever the line that Kirkwood and Ben and whoever else is involved,
Yeah.
wherever the people think the line is in terms of how much he could do before he breaks, I just hope that there's some learning there in terms of
Yeah.
not just training, but like travel and like and what's like we talked about with Audrey Veto before, or Hodgkinson, expectation, social media, the whole shebang. It's like, how has he got to the point where he is breaking? Because if he's breaking, he's not, it's not a good. It's an obstacle on the pathway to becoming a great champion as a 21-year-old or a 23-year-old or a 19-year-old. So that's all I think. It's just like, where's the? I've got no
Yeah.
issues with dropping out of school. I've got no issues with anything. Like, I just think the whole thing is amazing. But where is he? Where are the pressure points, and how does he avoid that going forward? That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Yeah, agree with all of that. I mean, I think you bring up a good point regarding the travel and stuff like that. And these are the little things that it's impossible to really know, right? Like, you think to yourself like, hey, jumping on a plane and traveling to the United States, it's not that big a deal. It's rest, right? But it's not. And I know this myself. It takes a lot out of you, even just traveling like for work and stuff like that, let alone getting off a plane and trying to run like world-class miles or, 3Ks and whatever. It's difficult, right? So I think that's sort of an element which nobody could ever have known. And the other thing for me is, and again, this is not a criticism because, I think there is a sentiment out there that he's being pushed or this kind of thing. And I don't believe that at all. But what I do believe, and this is coming from experience, as someone who was a highly motivated, 16-year-old, 17-year-old myself, is that like I could have actually done from somebody really stepping in and saying, hey man, you need to step off the gas a little bit in certain ways, because when you're young and things are going for you and you're fit and you're strong and you've just got like testosterone and all these hormones just flooding through your body and you can almost do anything. It's only human nature to just want to do that little bit extra yourself that isn't even really recognizable from a coach point of view, right? Like, you can, it's not like I think he's been given workouts to run and he's like, oh man, I don't think I can do this. And they're like, no, you have to. I think it's more like he's probably been given less, but then when it's coming down to maybe the last couple of reps or the last couple of Ks in a training run, he's really dropping the hammer because he can. And that's where you've got to step in and be like, hey, and it's not easy though, because again, kids can't be told anything. You and I were once petulant young whippersnappers, yes, of to some degrees. You can't tell kids anything, so it's tough. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing as well, maybe slightly concerning, is the fact that he did have a stress fracture. It looked like he was on the road to recovery, right? Because I saw some things, big hill workouts and some stuff on the track, and then it seems to have sort of gone a little bit backwards, and that's just not a trend that you want to have. But hey, shit happens, and just fingers crossed that he can recover and be as strong as ever and really start taking those strides next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also very important. An athlete's psychological makeup is super critical to determining whether they've got a pathway to becoming a great champion. So what I mean by that is Nick Willis was a very talented guy, but he didn't have the mongrel of a Walker to be a real winner. And you said to me, and you and I are both good mates with Nick. I was actually chatting to him yesterday because I thought I had hit him up for a while. He sounds like he's doing well, but you remember the pressure because you were with him. I think you were rooming with him the Com Games in 2006. 2006 he felt to win, right? And I was talking to him after the 2016 Olympics, and I said, why didn't you do what you did at World Juniors in the Olympics? You could have, you've already got a medal. Why didn't you have a shot at glory? And he said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, so I'll probably get a text from him. Not sure if he watches it.
You'll be aggregated.
But he said that was his attempt to see how far he could push himself like that. And he just thought that the better way for him to run was the way he ran in Rio. You compare that to Walker, who I think Sam Ruthe is a lot more like Walker, just doesn't think too much at all. He's a total natural. John Walker had arch jelly. It reminded me a little bit something about Lance Armstrong. I know a lot of people in the US don't like him, but it's a super interesting character study of before he had cancer, he said he thought of himself as a big dumb bike rider. He'd put it in the gutter and ride it off the front for 6 hours. And you had this raw power, this talented, freaky teenager. Then he said he got cancer, and this is pre-internet, and he had to go, if he was going to beat it and be able to ride again, he was going to have to explore all the angles. And he realized once his life was on the line, he wasn't stupid, and he actually had an ability to actually think about everything he's doing and mete out his effort as appropriate for an outcome, as opposed to just flogging yourself. So I don't know anything about what he's doing on a specific day to day, but if he is more the type who is just a freaky talent, even beyond someone like, say, Nick Willis, and he's out there just pound. I agree. Then someone needs to measure him so he doesn't expire as a talent. I don't think that's any telling any shocking tales out of school here. So he can't. You see him the way he runs. It's like he is just raw talent. He's oozing with talent. So he can't. That alone is probably, if he can stay healthy, is going to allow him to be a he could be a world record holder in the 15 or the mile, or why not? Why not? He could be an Olympic champion. There's nothing he couldn't do, but if he can't stay together, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he could break the world record in the 1500 or the mall.
Well, I think
he
he
stays
could.
together. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Why not? I mean, he's way better than Jakob was by a lot, and Myers and all those guys at that age. He's around 145. I actually don't think
Yeah.
he's done a huge amount of training. I don't think so. When Craig Kirkwood says, his mileage has been, he wasn't that fast like 2 years ago.
Yeah. I didn't mean that
Yeah.
disrespectfully, by the way. I just more meant that potentially the trend that we've seen of those records and how people have got close to them in the last, or how people haven't got close to them in the last 20, 25 years.
I know that. But what I'm saying is, if
got
there's,
you, yeah.
forget the fact we actually know the family, right? You just
Right.
look at, if put it this way, if anyone is going to challenge it, because no one has since El Garouche, then it's going to be a kid who's run 3:48 when he's 16.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, like you just alluded to, we both know Ben and Craig quite well, and remember Sam from when he was literally this big. So yeah, hopefully everything goes well in the recovery this time around, and we see him back out there. Shano, you've got 10 minutes left.
8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, I think we can do this one. Do you feel up for an athlete's court?
Go on. Well, as long as that's our last segment.
We'll go out on a bang. It's world famous now. The athlete's court. We'll tee it in with the theme music. Thanks to the tech team. Time for athlete's court. Shane Rohde today. This is a slightly different athlete's court, right? It's right in front of us, kind of to argue potentially two sides, depending on what your take on this one. Saw this one on the letsrun.com message board. Really an interesting question here. Quite I would say not really controversial, but it's definitely out there. It's thought-provoking. Sticking with the men's 1500 meters, actually a man that raced young Sam Ruthe earlier this year in North Carolina, Cole Hocker, the great Cole Hocker, Olympic champion, world 5,000 meter champion. But Shano, this question came out on letsrun.com. Is Cole Hocker the worst Olympic 1500 meter champion since 1990? So just off the board, that seems like a very, very harsh and ludicrous statement, right? Because we know how good Cole Hocker is. But let's just keep this down to the 1500 meter distance, right? Shano, is Cole Hocker the worst Olympic 1500 meter champ since 1990? What do you think?
Not even close.
All right, make your case.
I mean, sometimes in my day job, would I get? I think that's what's raised my ire when I saw that, and the fact because Jason and I, FYI, for all those hundreds of thousands of fans out there, have talked
Shane,
about this.
What's on that topic? On that topic, we've reached 100.
Oh yes,
we've done it.
We've done it.
We've made it through the nervous 90s.
There are 100 other losers out there that care about the technicalities of track and field.
We're at 100. Okay, sorry. Just remind me.
You're good. You're good. So it's just I just want to get like a counterparty in a legal matter and send an email accusing a client of something or taking a position. And I just give it the old it doesn't even and my body language is it doesn't even dignify a response without even thinking very deeply. And you and I've gone back and forth about this a little bit. There's just no way in my head that his win is of a lesser quality than Matthew Centrovitz's win. The people he had to beat, the fact he ran an Olympic record, the 1500 is at a laughably higher level now than it was. I know people talk about super shoes, they talk about wave light, but there was no wave light in the Olympics. There was no pacing. And this this cartel, so to speak, of top men's 1500 meter runners right now, and the women's side's good too. We'll talk about the
Yes.
men's here.
Yeah.
Is like a historically talented level of guys. They are crazy, crazy, crazy good. And furthermore, I know we're talking about the 1500, but he did get he stuffed it up himself, and I
Right.
really liked that he didn't cry foul about it. He stuffed up the world champs last year. I believe there's every reason, given Isaac Nader won, that he would have won that 1500 too. He won the
He could have,
5,000. He won the 5,000 to show that that is not a baseless assumption, and also his career isn't over yet. And I think this is where Jason, you and I got to, and I know you're about to give me the counterfactual in a minute. His career isn't over yet. He's still not that old, and I just think if he was more of a thresholdy, well, he's pretty good at that too. But if he was
Yeah.
just a thresholdy guy and he's getting older and but the Cole Hocker X factor, it's not just the speed, but it's that. And you had this as an athlete, Jason. It's
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
that gnarliness, that refusal to give up, and it's seen him. It means he can win races pretty much from any position, unless he stuffs up as bad as the Sebis at the World Champs, the 15 last year.
Right.
He could, within reason, win from any position, and because he's so tough, he can win on a day where I saw he almost won that 3K the other day. I say he's been out of shape, he's been injured or whatever, but like the guy,
Yeah.
he's a winner. He's a winner. And I just think to say, when you put all that together in my head, to think of Matt Centrovitz, and there's no disrespect to Matt Centrovitz, I think he's a great runner. I always thought he was
Yes.
going to do well way before he did when he came out of Oregon. He's awesome. And there's no disrespect to that 1500 win, but to me, Cole Hocker is a greater champion than Centro, which means to me it's a ludicrous statement that he's the worst Olympic champion since 2000 or whatever it was.
But Shane, you would have done yourself proud in a court of law there. That was in front of Judge Judy. That was good. I mean,
Thanks.
I don't just say. I mean, this is
Yeah.
interesting. This is not really an athlete's court in the truest sense, because I think
No.
we're kind of on the same. It's just a very interesting topic. I just didn't want to. I know that you're a little bit under the weather, so we don't
Yeah.
need to go head to head so ferociously today on this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. You know me, I'm a little bit more pragmatic on the numbers, et cetera, which is why we work so well together. And the first thing I was...
No, we've got
wanted to
100
do-
fans to prove that.
That's we've got 100 fans to prove it. But shout out to all of them. Dave McCarthy, Sarge, Lucas,
Sarge.
Martin, the Sarge, Lucas, Jeff Shaw, Sammy Maloney, I don't know if he's back in there, Stu Kerr, listens every week, Steve Scopes, all the crew.
I think Jimmy McLaughlin might be on
Jimmy
it now as well.
McLaughlin, Kramer, shout out to all you guys. Shadow, anyway. I digress. For me, I wanted to look and say, well, okay, who are we actually going up against? Because there haven't been that many Olympic champions since the year 2000, the 1500 meters, right? I think there's 8, just off the top of my head. So I think we can both agree that, and the term worst it's a harsh term, right? It's like, who's worse? Well, I mean, is Cole Hocker a worse 1500 meter runner than Nuruddin Morsali and Hisham El Garouj? Yes, but that's like, those are the 2 best 1500 meter runners in history. So that's like a difficult, that Hisham, 4-time world champion, Nuruddin, 3-time world champion, Olympic champions in their own right, and world record holders. So that's not too harsh. But then when we get sort of to, like the turn of the century, you've got Noah Yen, right? I think like what's going for Noah Yen, he ran 3:28 back in that era. He beat El Garouj, who is the GOAT, at arguably right in the middle of El Garouj's peak window, world 1,000 meter record holder. It's very, very difficult to compare Cole Hocker and Noah Yen, but for me, I may give the nod to Noah then. Then we get into this weird period around, like 2008, 2012. We got Asbel Kiprop wins a 1,500 meter Olympic title because Rashid Ramsey gets DQ'd. I don't even know if we rank Kiprop in this one because he's a cheat. So, I mean, by default, for the sake of the argument, I don't think Cole Hocker is a worse 1,500 meter runner than Asbel Kiprop because Asbel Kiprop cheated. But let's take him out of there because he's voided. Is he better than Jakob? I mean, it's so crazy, right? Because
wait a second. What about McLuffy?
Yeah, I was going to work back to like the two guys who are on my list here.
Okay.
The thing with Jakob is this: despite his lack of toolbox in terms of winning these big races, right? and we know he is limited. He's a little bit of a one-trick-ish pony. I know that sounds harsh, but it is kind of true. He's not a guy that has the same range to, out of the guys that have run under 3:27.5 in history and won the Olympics. There's not many of them. There's only Nuruddin and Hisham. He's kind of like got the most limited skill set, and yet in saying that, there is massive value in his ability to run from the front in these 1,500-meter races and to take on the pace. It's so much harder than people think. I think Josh Kerr is going to find out in this mile attempt, just how hard it is. So I loathe to I'm not sure on that one, Shano. That's a 50-50. But the two names on my list, I think you mentioned one of them, Matt Centrovitz and Taufik Makhloufi. Is Cole Hocker better than those two guys? And I think the answer is intertwined with what you said, is that right now in his career, we still don't know. Centrovitz was Olympic champion, but he was also a two-time world medalist. And Shano, at those two world championships, one name that was ahead of him both times was Aspel Kiprop. So Matthew Centrovitz could arguably,
Yes.
and this was also in a period where I don't think there's any kind of there's nothing up in the air as if to Kiprop cheating or not, because I think he was absolutely cheating in this time period. We don't know in 2008. That one's a bit of a weird one. He hadn't quite run that fast yet. So Centro could be sitting here as an Olympic champion, a world champion, and a world silver medalist. And ironically, the one thing that Matt Centrovitz was absolute best at, which was his tactical positioning analysis, is the one thing that Cole Hocker is the worst thing at. Yep. So I don't know about that one. And then, of course, you've got Makhloufi. He was Olympic champion. He was then an Olympic medalist in both the 8 and 1500. My gut feeling aligns with you, Shane, that he is not the worst runner since 2000. But my head, in terms of as for right now, it's still up in the air. And I think I totally agree with you. It's too soon to tell. We're going to have to see what happens next year in 2027. Look, if he comes out and wins the world title in 2027, like he could have done in 25, it puts this argument to bed. And certainly if he goes to LA and he wins the 1,500 meters there and becomes only the second man in history to ever win back-to-back 1,500 meter titles, joining Seb Coe, then we don't have a discussion. But it's just a really interesting one.
Yeah, I can't get past the gut, and I hear everything you say in terms of the 3:27 Olympic record. It was against that field. Here's another one too, though. You see, I don't just so. To me, it's like a flow chart where you go yes or no. It's like one of those IRD flow charts. You get the tax man, it's called in New Zealand, where it's like, have you done this? Yes, then go to next box. Have you done this? Yes, okay. It's starting to get hot. It's a bit like that. It's just like to me, Centro he's clearly, I think, a better 1,500 meter runner than Centro. But look, to me, it gets interesting beyond that too. Like Jakob, I know what you said about Jakob, and I don't dispute what you're saying. And overall, I think Jakob is a better 1,500 meter runner than Cole. But then to me, it's like I can't make that statement with too much conviction, because if old Potato Tim hadn't taken that 1,500 out in the slightly asterisk-y weird Olympic, a bit like the NBA title in the bubble, then would Jakob have won? And he's never won another championship in the 1,500.
That's true.
I don't know.
And
also, sorry, I'll just finish that logic. Go. So Jakob was in his absolute prime in Paris.
Yeah.
17 was it that year he ran 17? It was
just a few weeks later.
So he a few weeks later, so he took down prime. The best Jakob did was fourth in his prime in the 1,500, and Cole won it. So that's why to me it got my heckles up a bit. I was like, the worst. I was like, no, I can make compelling arguments. He's better than a handful of them. Centro, unfortunately, I don't know Matthew Centrovitz, but I've always really liked him, and I've never understood why people have. Perhaps he's a slightly irreverent character, and I can relate to that myself. And I always thought he's a cool dude, and he's I've always just thought he was just a great winner of races. He's a fabulous guy, and I remember watching him in 2012 in the semis, and he's got this beautiful, effortless. He doesn't lift his knees a lot, but his whole upper body. It's a bit like watching Jan Ulrich on a bike. It was just so still, even when everyone was sprinting in the back straight in the semi. He just it's almost like a little hovercraft. He just absolutely just glide across the ground. It was beautiful to watch. So yeah, I think Cetro's awesome, but I just
Yeah.
think Cole is just the yeah. I think he's yeah.
I know what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
the eye test and the acid test. I mean, it's difficult to rank a guy. Centro ran three. I mean, we say only ran 3:30. It was a different era, right? And I would say in today's era in these kind of races, Centro is 100% a lot faster. He's probably a 3:28 candidate, maybe not a 3:27 candidate. Maybe doesn't quite have the lungs and the threshold that we see that Hocker has over 3K to get down into that level. I mean, we've seen this across the course of history. All of the guys who have run, Algarouge, Morselli, then you go into, the only guy who's a bit of an outlier here, the two guys are Adazine Habs and Faniel Coach, but all the other guys in the 3:27s are also absolute guns over 3K. Jakob, Nagoose, Josh Kerr, Morselli, of course, was world record holder in the 3K. LG, I think still to this day is maybe the fourth or fifth fastest of all time. So it's, I'm not sure if Centro was down in that level, but you can't discount the fact that he was just always in the right place and the right time in these races. And save for a Kenyan athlete on EPO, he could have a much, much bigger legacy.
It's fair. That's fair.
Sport.
Yeah.
But I agree with you as well. It's tough. Like, I'm not sure if you put Matt Centrovitz and Cole Hocker head to head in a race. In fact, the one time we did see it was right at the end of Centro's career in those US trials in 21, where Hocker famously beat him. But at both at their peaks, it's a real toss up. The only thing I'd say though, Shane, too, is that after the Olympics, over 1,500 meters, Cole Hocker has not won a race, a 1,500 meter race since. And, he went obviously to the US trials, outdoor trials last year. He got beaten by Strand and by Jonah Koech. Interesting.
I know, but Centro got last in his heat at the USA's the year after he won the Olympics.
Yeah,
and he was entitled to a procession after winning the Olympics. He was the first guy from America since Mel Whitfield in since 1400 to win the Olympics.
No,
yeah, so
Dave Wattle. Dave Wattle.
No, in the 15, it means 1500.
In the 1500. I'm not even sure if Mel Whitfield ever won the 15, did he?
It's a great name. It's a mythical name. It's a bit like W.G. Grace in cricket, Mel Whitfield. I think I looked him up and he ran about the same time as me, but he probably ran on like a cinder track. It was a bit like sort of what's his name, Western Springs or something. He's probably like running 143 now. Yeah,
exactly. Oh well, that was good, Shado. Yeah, I don't think there's an answer either way. I think we've still got to see out the rest of the decade before we can definitively say that. But and full disclosure, I'm not saying that he is the worst 1,500 meter Olympic 1,500 meter champ since 1990. But hey, at the end of the day, too, mate, you were talking about some of the greatest names in the history of the event. I mean, clearly, like if you win the Olympic 1,500 meters, you are one of the greatest 1,500 meter runners that has ever lived. And some of these guys are right up there in the all-time annals of just track and field and middle distance running as a whole. So it's a bloody difficult.
Just a shout out too to our own Nick Willis, the great Nick Willis. Yeah. I mean, he got third behind two drug cheats.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
And like we could be saying is who's better out of Willis than those two?
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, my thoughts on that. I think Nick Willis is one that absolutely deserves a spot on the all-time GOAT list just for longevity as well. I'm not sure if any, and some bigger stat nerd than me or you will be able to tell us, has anybody won an Olympic 1,500 medal like so far apart, 8 years apart? I'm not sure if they have, right? Nick, of course, silver medal in 2008 and then a bronze medal in 2016, like skipping Olympics in 2012. That is such a huge... In part of greatness, as a metric, just in general, I think across all sports, whether it's basketball, whether it's rugby, cricket, track, is also longevity of your career and how good you were able to perform. And that was one of the hallmarks of like Walker's legacy. He was like the Iron Man, and Nick completely blew John Walker out of the water in terms of like just like competing at the highest level and performance, et cetera, et cetera. So totally agree.
Right.
There you go. That's another world famous athletes caught in the bag. Shane, we'll get you out of here on this one. Soccer World Cup. I know you watched the All Whites play last night. You got final word. What was that experience like?
No good.
Just no good. It's
They need to. I mean,
yeah,
uncle for most of his career was the editor. Embarrassing if you ever saw this back. What was the? Is it the Dominion Post in Wellington?
yeah, of course.
And he grew up like he used to cry when Liverpool lost. He was like, because old Dickie, my late grandfather, my mum, so who you met, Jason, we stayed with
Yes,
him in Stokes Valley
yes,
back in the day. Actually, incidentally, at that All Whites qualifier,
yes.
yeah, in 2009 or 10, and it was um, like I can't. Oh, sorry. So my uncle was saying
Yeah.
that they need. He said to me once, they need to make the goals bigger, and I laughed and I said, Richard, I said that's ridiculous. Like there's hundreds of years of history of sport. He said, well, no. He said the problem is the opposite of say T20 cricket,
Yeah.
where something happens every ball. Uh, Soccer's problem is, to me, is a bit like baseball's problem is that you go to a game and nothing happens. Like we went and watched the Mets play and they basically stand there for hours on end.
Yeah.
Whereas basketball is a little bit, sometimes you could argue
Right.
too far the other way, particularly the regular season where they score almost every play. But
Yeah.
I haven't watched it for years and I've been watching it because, why not? But to me, it's uninspiring and I didn't enjoy. You can't be into everything.
I know.
Yeah.
Obviously not living in New Zealand anymore. I don't watch a lot of soccer. You're just bombarded with like US sports here. Like
Yeah.
as we're both big into NBA, and then
Yeah.
I got the NFL, and we got a track, and I watch even a little bit of baseball these days. So I don't follow too much on the old heritage sports from New Zealand. But obviously, watching New Zealand the World Cup's a big deal. You and I famously made the trek down from Auckland to that incredible game back
that was good.
back in 2010. Was it or two? Yeah, I think it was 2010 when they qualified, or 2009 when they qualified.
Yeah,
for the first time in like 20 plus years, and it was awesome. So I've obviously been watching the team here, and in that first game against Iran, like I think that was some of the best soccer. It was actually a little bit heartwarming because we're so used to watching the All Whites at the world level just play this kind of timid defensive brand where they were, there was no ambition or no pep or anything. And it seemed like it turned around there against Iran. And then I think, unfortunately, Shano, as the tournament progressed, I don't know if it was kind of weight of expectation that, hey, man, we could potentially do this, or shit, we effed it up against Iran because they could have won that game. They really should have. That it just got worse and worse. And I think last night was just kind of like, it brought back all the PTSD of watching some of those All Whites games of the past.
I just don't know what the thinking is, how you think you're going to beat like a highly skilled team like Belgium when you don't really try and do anything.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the worst thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
So what? By trying and taking risks, you lose 8-1 rather than 5-1.
5-1. Exactly.
Risk it. I mean, 5-1's not great anyway.
No, I know. And that's what Kerr said as well. It's like there were moments in the tournament where you think the team progressed, but then at the end of the day, they're so few and far between that realistically in the next World Cup where they're at, well, they're going to be at every World Cup now because you get basically automatic entry through Oceania. It's just it's such a tidy step forward for a handful of moments where you're like, wow, the team actually looks like an international team. So I know, Shado, I think we're just destined to always be a South Pacific rugby and cricket nation, mate. Anyway.
Yeah.
So shout out to the All Whites for being there, I guess. All right, Shado. Hey, you're a champion. It was awesome to have you back on the pod. Obviously, shame that that biology didn't help you out today, but that was good. I saw there were some moments of inspiration and fire that Stu Kerr would be proud of. What do you think about his performance on the pod, by the way? Should we have him back?
Very good. He's a great orator.
He is.
Yeah, he's somewhat more polished than his than his roots, but yeah.
He's sly, isn't he?
He's getting there. Yeah.
He's got more insight and intel than potentially.
Well, that's the thing about Kerr. He's always had a lot to say. It's just about refining it over time.
Oh, well, that's what being on a podcast is all about. You've got to be a bit of a chatterbox.
He's a chatterbox. He's a little box of chatter. All right, I gotta go. I gotta go lie on the couch.
Good one. Go have yourself a flat white on the machine behind you there.
Oh, mate. Catch you
All
later.
right. All right. Awesome. Peace, Shano. And
Peace
hey,
out, dude.
and yeah, and if Audrey Rero does break that world record tomorrow, you best believe there's going to be an emergency pod on the Jack Stitch podcast. So stay tuned. All right, Shano. Peace. Have a
See
good
you,
one,
mate.
mate. See ya.